All right. I got to make that introduction longer. Clearly, that was too short. It is 1:45 on Monday, October 6th, and I'm here with my friend Monique Sampedro, and a whole new concept that started. Was it this morning? I asked you if you want to do a podcast, or was that last night?
I think it was this morning.
Okay.
Pretty
So,
sure that's how that went. I think I poked a little last night, and you had probably already had some things churning. I don't know. Then this morning, yeah, it was this morning.
yeah. Well, let's talk about this for a second because I think this is interesting, and I do wonder if. Um, I'll just start with I was at pickleball last night and I played way too long. In fact, I'm physically exhausted. Like I forget how old I am and just keep going and going until I can barely walk. And then scootering home for 45 minutes to an hour on top of that, like just standing up and driving over bumpy stuff can take some energy out. But while I was riding, you sent me a couple of texts and some voice messages. And I have been wanting to talk about, for example, Gate 57 for a while. And I have in little snippets here and there, but like have a really deep discussion about it. And you asked about it last night, and I thought, well, there we go. It needs to be. I'm not a projector. It doesn't need to be invited out of me or whatever. But it no one listens unless someone's asked. So I'm taking it that you've asked. And then it turned into getting up this morning and going, what do I want to do today? And I thought podcast and thought about your question, and then realized that the other podcasts I've had, one was called Due Diligence, and I'll probably get back to that at some point. But it was never really meant to be about energy or design. It almost probably 90% of the people I had on there were design people, but that was never really the intent of it. And I'd like to kind of keep that carved away for that. But I recognize too that I'm definitely moving into energy work. I have moved to Florida. I'm by the beach. I'm doing my qigong in the morning. I'm a very different person than I was a few years ago, and energy is a big part of what I'm doing. And I want to talk to people about this more. And so it just seemed like a fun idea to start a whole new thing. And so thank you for the the nudge. Whether it was, I'm not sure that you were expected to end up doing this today, but I'm also really chuffed that you're playing along. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, it's really cool because I think it's on both of our ends. I think there was like some cool synchronistic stuff because I was, I mean, you and I talk here and there regularly, pretty regularly, especially now that you live closer, about all kinds of things, right? Our conversations have gone all kinds of directions, which I love. Um, and and I just know this is something that came up, and for whatever reason, last night I was contemplating on it for my own self, just having, I have the 1057, and I just remembered, I'm like, I remember Sean saying something about it, and I remembered somebody else saying, and it was just like coming up for me. This morning, I woke up to uh, Amy and I, my podcast co-host, for our podcast, Love Human Be Spirit. She sends me stuff all the time. We're just always messaging. And this morning, I woke up to one about Jupiter placements, some Instagram post about Jupiter placements. And 57 is in my Jupiter. It's my conscious Jupiter, 57.1. That's where my placement is for that gate. So she sent me this thing. I looked at it and she's like, it's just so like relevant. And look, yours is 57. And I'm like, how interesting. I was just, noting this was before you asked me to do this today. Yes, this was at like 7 a.m. today because Amy gets up really early. It's before you and I really. And then I was like, huh, I was barely awake. But later, I dropped my daughter off at school and I'm like, oh, 57 came up again. And then I read your text. And then we're like here now talking a little bit about it. And so it just all feels very. And 57 in line one, where mine is called Confusion, the line, which is like, before we even started recording earlier, I was like, before I lay down for a nap, I was just looking through the books and stuff, reading 57 things and reading the line one things. I'm like, wow, that could literally be an excerpt from like my life, like the way that it's worded. The I'll probably find it while we're talking so I can point out exactly what I mean. But it's just so super interesting. So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of us now
cool.
that we're talking about it.
Well, why don't we? One thing I thought we could do. I'm gonna. 'Cause I want to talk about the 57, and for me, it's less about the line or I Ching descriptions. It's more about the splenic energy and the physical aspect
Mhm.
of it. But
Okay.
it occurred to me that I thought it would be best if I share my body graph, because I think when I talk about it, um, I think it's going to be important. Like, to me, the 13 is actually a big part of this as well, about my experiences with it. The other thing too, actually, I want to do. Hmm, is this actually going to let me do that? I should have done a second screen. That's what I should have done. Let's see if this works. Okay. One of the things, and you know, we were talking about this the other day. I was asking you about it if you've seen this, but like I use neutrino design for when I'm looking at the mental world body graph. And if I click on personality view, I've got the same defined centers as I do for design view. And I'd comment to you that like I haven't seen that very often or at all really, where it's a single definition and it's the same centers. So I've been leaning into that a lot lately because I realize I have been struggling with so many things, and this seems to be a big part of that. The one thing that I also then picked up on is the only channel that's consistent between the two is the 5734, right? So I get that definition in other ways, but the 5734 is the only one that's contiguous there. And it'd be interesting to see where this 57 conversation goes, because I don't generally think about. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to say about that yet. But what I do want to comment on is the idea that that 57 for me is all about the right ear. And when I was listening to your voice text last night, you were talking about a conversation you had with Jonah, and I think he was even had you stand on one side of him as well, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if I recall, I think he did the same thing with me when I met with him in Seattle. We met about 6 weeks before the Human Design Conference 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Mm.
And I seem to recall, and I think you even said you guys went on a really long walk, and that was my memory too. Is it was like a 7 hour journey, just like walks and walks. So, um, but that right ear, this is where I want to start. I used to think I had hearing problems. In fact, I thought I did for about 20 years. I'm a drummer. I play loud, I play hard, and I've done it for 46 years. My mother used to be a health and safety consultant for a company called Syntex in the late 80s. And she would test my ears using all the fancy gear. And I was playing music so loud that it was the equivalent of standing inside a 747 engine. So, like, that was the scale of the noise. And so I eventually learned to believe that I had hearing problems. What I discovered after changed that. So this is probably like 3 years ago now. I was still maybe 4 years ago. I was actually starting to inquire about hearing aids and starting to think that I actually had legit hearing problems. And I was not excited about it. And I was actually like reading people's lips at times. And so that was worrisome. And then I end up having a plant medicine experience that led to, or shamanic experience that led to a bunch of plant medicine experiences. And psilocybin and mushrooms end up being a big part of my exploration for about 2 years, like a regular exploration. And there was one night where I probably took 4 grams is generally considered a heroic dose of mushrooms. So I'd taken about 4 grams of mushrooms. I was in my bedroom, just doing my work, and I could hear my former wife and son talking, uh, and they were really far away. There was a closed door. They were downstairs across the opposite end of the house and in a room that had a solid core wood door. Like basically, we had converted our garage into a room, so it had one of those really thick doors, and I could hear them, and I could make out what they were saying. And this was coming from someone who previously thought he had hearing problems. So I was like blown away at how clearly I could hear on mushrooms. So that made me curious. And so between my little metaphysical book and reading about trauma in the ear and just even the different sides, right? The right side of your body is generally more masculine, the left side's more feminine. I don't even remember everything I read in there, but I just remember having like a profound like, oh, this is the problem. I don't have a hearing problem. I have a listening problem. And so I started exploring that more. So then I started looking into actually when I was reading about the trauma of the right or the ear, I recognized that like even wax buildup and various other things that are in your ear can stunt what you hear. And I wanted to see how good my hearing could be. So I went searching for ways to, really effectively clear your ears. And there's this concept of ear candling, which I think in general a lot of people these days think it might be dangerous or whatever. But being the citizen scientist that I am, and I just try everything, I thought, fuck it. I went and booked a session and had that and reflexology, the same visit from a woman, I can't remember her name, in Victoria. And she, her website basically said a lot of people report that after they get their ears candled, they start reporting psychic like abilities. And it was just like a tiny little subtext at the bottom of this post about her service. So like $75 for an ear candling, and then this notion that there might be, some psychic stuff that comes along. So I was like, oh, cool. Why not? I'm just trying to clean my ears. But so I went and had my ears candled, and that was quite the experience. It was very relaxing. When I left, I didn't feel like anything had changed, but what I did find is that I could hear better after, and that I had created like an intuitive connection with my right ear in particular to sensing nuance and acoustics. Now, one of the reasons I brought my chart up as well is that I think there's other characteristics of my design. I'm just going to switch it back to both. Is that I've got this open solar plexus, I've got the 13, but I'm also valleys. My friend Eleanor doesn't follow that stuff, so I'm saying these things knowing if she watches this, she'll be like, but I believe in valleys. I believe in some of these. My experiments have proven some of this stuff to be quite true. And valleys is very acoustic, and it's all about the acoustics. So I started noticing, and this is where I want to share a couple of things I discovered along the way. There was one time where I got a voicemail from someone. Actually, I'll just tell you who it is because I don't remember what she was telling me. But do you remember Amanda Horvath? You probably met her in.
I didn't get. I don't think that if I did meet her, it was quick. But I do know who you're talking about. I don't know her, but yes, I know her name.
So she left me a voicemail one day on my phone. And the first time I heard it, I was kind of in a rush, but I listened to it, and I don't remember what the content was, and I don't want to share it, even if I could remember it. But it was something that she was just talking, and then she shared something that was personal, but I heard a warble in her voice, like there was a like my head, I could feel my head go like, that's interesting. And then because I was busy, I thought I got to get back to her later, and so when I played the voicemail again later, I didn't hear the warble. And I again thought, well, that's unusual. But what I realized is the first time I listened to it, I had my AirPods in, so both ears. When I listened to it the second time, I was holding the phone up to my left ear only. So it was only my left ear hearing what was going on, and it didn't hear what I heard before. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So then I put it on speakerphone and listened to it, and I could hear the warble again. And so I was like, okay, like that. I didn't know that now, right? So then I sent her a note at that point and just responded and said whatever I was responding to. But I said I couldn't help but pick up something in your voice when you said X, and I can't remember what her response was, but she was dumbfounded, is my recollection. And that was one of the first times that I experienced that. But I started to realize that I was able to do that all the time. Like if I use my right ear to listen for clues in what's being said to me, like I've specifically mentally are like actively targeting that ear, I was able to pick up acoustics. I then, as part of this whole adventure, I was working with Leanne Wolf for a while. I did a bunch of readings and consults with her, and she was talking about taste cognition, and she was suggesting that I taste people's words. And so then I, at the time, whipped up ChatGPT and I'm like, what are the different kinds of taste? And there was like sour or sweet or bitter or umami, which means kind of like beefy. Like I remember not knowing what umami tasted like. Um, and that was really interesting because all of a sudden I could taste people's words. Um, and I really could. And ever since then, it's become like a spidey sense or a skill. Um, there's probably other elements to that, but that's kind of the gist of it. Is that I discovered that I didn't have a hearing problem. I had a listening problem, and that's a whole separate conversation. But once I got over the idea or the label I applied to myself of having a hearing problem and got my ears candled, I enabled effectively an ability to read a conversation. And in fact, I don't take phone calls with my hand up to my head anymore, like ever. I won't do it. And I actually just, I'll even say, I also at some point had an epiphany and then realized that I had a bunch of business deals go south years ago, and I'd be willing to bet it was listening, like someone I trusted or whatever, heard them with the phone up to my head, didn't pick up the clues I needed, and went along with whatever their story was, and then I got totally hosed by it. So these days I'm a speakerphone or both ears, like earpods or whatever, for every conversation if it's digital. And I'll even go so far as to say I prefer video because picture's worth 1,000 words. Video must be worth 10,000. There's a lot of expression in the face, but also in general, I'm not doing this while I'm talking to you, right? So, yeah, that's my take on
Fascinating.
57.
Super fascinating. I mean, it's really crazy to me how profoundly you noticed some of these things. Like how um I don't know. It's like I feel like I couldn't pay that much attention to it if I tried. Like now that you pointed it out, I'm like, okay, cool, cool, cool. I can experiment like that. But yeah. Um I've done ear candles once, a long time ago. I know what those are, and I had someone do it to me too. I was so much younger. I barely remember the experience. And I just, for me, it's like this 57 is so interesting. And ever since you mentioned this to me about the speakerphone thing, I've noticed too. I'm used to I like taking my calls either like if I'm home by myself on speakerphone because I can like put it down and be doing other things. I don't love earbuds in my ears. That bothers me a little bit. Like the inside of my ear starts to, but do you ever do one earbud in only your right ear? Since that's the ear? Because I find sometimes I'll do one earbud in my ear while like I'll have something in my ear listening to something while I'm at home, like doing something else. I'll have an earbud and like if it's a podcast or something, I don't want it like on my speaker thing and I want it like I hear it in my I usually will put it in my right ear. I mean, I'm right-handed too, so maybe that's why, but I'm thinking of those kinds of like little things too. And that's crazy though that your hearing was literally thought you were about to get like hearing aids, and then like now it doesn't feel that way. I hear so much too of you just like getting in your body more. It sounds like too,
Oh,
because with the taste cognition stuff too, and I've heard that from taste people that they can like taste. It's almost like they can taste their own words too when they're saying stuff like,
mm.
or like sometimes they're like chewing it over before they actually say it. Like I can kind of see them like mulling a little or whatever. Um, that's really interesting too for me to hear.
I've been having that dialogue a lot this week, where I've been basically just sending gratitude to various friends where I'm able to just talk and hear myself say things. Uh,
Hmm.
and dear friend of mine sends me voice messages, and sometimes the first take is probably not the best one, and and I'm guilty of doing the same thing. And it's it's worth hearing myself say it once because I can refine the message. I prefer succinct, short, discerning, accurate with communication, but also just hearing myself say it and being like, oof, that may not be received well, right? Like, why wouldn't I want to have less friction with someone just by taking the time to rehearse almost? So like, when
Mm.
I use tools like Loom or sending a voice message lately, unless it's a real long ramble, and I definitely am guilty of those, if I'm just kind of like feeling through it. But if it's something where I need to get a message across cleanly, I will play it, play it back, play it again, and then, or record it again. And then usually third time's the charm. Actually, like with the 3-5 profile, that's been my big experiment for the last year, is just I kind of tick the number 3 quite literally. And like,
That's funny.
it's the charm for everything. Um, I also get so much information given to me with that 13 that I've realized that not all of it's for me. So I just let it, learned to let it funnel through me, don't take on its energy. And instead, until I've heard something 3 times, unless it's like really was something I'm looking for, it's like I didn't hear it. But the third time, it's like a bell goes off my head. It's like, okay, this is important for me.
Mhm.
I've noticed that some people will say like, I told you that last week and you didn't even acknowledge it. And it's like, well, I only heard it the first time, and that quad left
The
just the
leftist. I was just gonna say that.
yeah.
I see that with Amy so much, and Amy's left dominant, and I'm right, and she'll until she hears it a few times, it's not in there, for sure, for sure. So like she's got a process. I think she'll like listen, then watch, and then like what or something. There's like things she does. It's so not like that with my brain. Generally, it's like I'll watch it one time through, and I almost always retain the stuff in there. I don't always have access to it to pull it back out. Sometimes it'll come back out. But I want to say something because something came up in me when you were talking about how you prefer like the looms or like the or even the opportunity for you to voice and see yourself back and hear yourself back and all that. One, like I totally agree, that just creates so much room for personal growth and awareness. I think when we have like safe people to do that with, um because it's just not the same for me anyways when I'm like recording for myself a note as to when I'm sending it to somebody. I don't know why, but and if I hear that one back, there's something generally in there that I can get for myself, even though the message was like for someone else. But when you were like, I like to like play them and then hear like, oh, I sounded maybe like that. Maybe there's like a better way to say that, or like, the example you just gave. What I heard like was like, oh, maybe that's um I don't even know if it works like this, but so take my design for example. I'm not the same centers defined on both my personality and design, um, but okay. Hold on, let me see if I can get this thought out. Since since my two sides are different, since most people's two sides are different, as opposed to yours, which your personality design are the same centers, right? What we were talking about before. Maybe there's this way that it's harder for you to see yourself because yourself is the same personality and design, like center wise. And so maybe this like gift of like being able to watch yourself back, hear yourself back, whatever, in a moment with another in an interaction is like kind of like the gift of like you being able to see you in a whereas like not to say that like I can see myself, but my design side is an undefined spleen if I'm remembering correctly, whereas like my personality is definitely a splenic person. And so I feel like maybe there's this reminder inside of me that that undefined spleens exist. Like I think I'm a mental projector, yeah, with so um my spleen is conscious. That feels so true for me. Like it is, everything is like fear. Like I'm always like, oh shit, like what's the, like there's so much of that in me, right? It's very conscious. And whereas like the chill part of me, the other side of me is like, now we're good. Like, like I see like these two kind of versions of me. Whereas like you're the same definition energetically centered wise both ways. So I'm wondering, anyways, when you were saying that, that's what I saw in my head. Like, oh, I wonder if him seeing himself back is almost like a little hack into seeing yourself, like because you're the same self on personality and design. So seeing yourself, I don't know, like there, I feel like in our openness is where we get to like have the gift of like flexibility, right? And different kind of perspectives. And you know, that's kind of how that works. Like whereas my splenic mind side is like always like, oh shit, 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 you know, like what, like, you know, ready to like live or die. But like my body side is like not like that, really, when I sit like into it. And interestingly enough, your body side and your mind side are both. So I just wonder if it's harder for you to mirror for yourself, except like when you externalize like that with a close, safe space, and then you can like see it back, and then it's like, oh, that's what I look like, kind of thing. Do you know what I'm trying to get at here?
Yeah, and it's actually by kind of what's been going on for me the last week of just like, who am I? Because everyone kind of keeps telling me who I am, and I'm like, really? Like, and it's still like 4 years later. Um, but you said something really interesting last night. Again, like one of the voice memos, you talked about, you basically echoed what you just said now. Um, but it kind of stopped me in my tracks for a minute. Um, and it has been a very interesting week where I feel like I'm finally leaning into the idea that those centers are defined, and they're defined consciously and unconsciously, and that I can rely on it, and that, I think I know now for sure that I was super sensitive when I was younger and bottled up way early on and never had any skills or tools for getting rid of other people's energy. So between the 13 of just hearing everyone's stories all the time, like it's just, I didn't realize I didn't realize that was unique to me. Just how much I get to hear about things that I don't generally want to hear about. Um, and just even the baggage that comes along with that. But then not having an energy clearing practice and just taking it on, and then the open head of wanting, and the open root of wanting to fix everything for everyone. I just basically exhausted, burnt myself out. And I mean, that's why I'm in Florida and not working and doing things like I used to, is I was going to die. I was dying. So,
Mm-hmm. I believe that. I think that sacrals can, as a non-sacral person who's watched both sacrals and non-sacrals burn themselves out. I just feel like sometimes sacrals get it worse because it's like you can keep going and going for so much longer. It feels like literally physically going. So you do, you know, and it's all. I feel like you guys are the ones that often get all the stuff put on you. Like you got to do it. You got like, and you can. So then you do, and then we keep like doing it, and then it's like, yeah, yeah. Just I feel that, and I'm just I don't know, proud of you. I mean, you've been living like true to your sacral, and from where I sit, and I've been watching you make moves, and doing that and trusting your body is not always the easiest thing to do in this life. It's just not, in my experience. So, good job.
yeah, well, the synchronicities and how things have been lining up lately, I wouldn't have planned this, right? I'm
Right.
got a fellow week short of 30 years marriage, and now no relationship with my ex-wife or kids at the moment. And super hard, but it was in a household where I wasn't appreciated. I was the family mule, and I had to leave. And so here I am recovering, and I trust we'll be in communication again. I have to. But for now, I mean, the abuse I'm taking, and and is just, it's not cool. Um, but I've also pushed past. I haven't pushed past all the pain of it, but a lot of it has cleared because I'm feeling so healthy now. My body brought me here, like just this series of events, and how I ended up even just on Hollywood Beach instead of Fort Lauderdale, which was my intent. And it's just how things have lined up. It's been very synchronistic and very cool. And I wouldn't even say I necessarily knew I was trusting my gut. This is what I want to say. I think in the last 4 days, I'm learning to trust my gut, like for the first time ever. So apparently, I was doing it well enough. So I'm interested to see where things are in a few weeks, because I got up today and I was actually excited about doing something. I mean, this podcast, like I cleaned this place, I did laundry, I took my time, I spent an hour on the beach, went for a swim, and I still put together everything for a brand new podcast, including media and right.
Yeah.
I was just doing it while I was washing the dishes and stuff. So
Oh my God. That's the most MG thing I've ever heard. It's so annoying to watch. I mean, it's so cool. It's so cool. It's just every bone in my non-sacral body gets jelly belly. I'm like, how though? How? How? But like, well, you just said you did it like while you were washing dishes. I remember one of the girls I work with at the bar. She's an MG. She's a 130 sacral MG, and she could just do a million things at a time. It's great for a bar job. But I remember one day at the end of our shift, it was like closing the bar time. She's like cleaning the sink and reading a book, like at the same time. And the next day, she's like, "Oh my God, you should totally read that book." I'm like, "When did you read it though? Like, I saw you last, like hours ago." She's like, "No, I did it while I closed." I'm like, "Wait, I'm sorry, what? Now you read a book while you were like, the fuck? Wowzers." Yeah, but when your sacral's on, it's on. What? So say more. What do you mean in the last 4 days you've listened to your sacral? I mean, you know how to use, like, that's pretty. You were using it well enough before that. That's what you said.
I
Saying that.
I
Feel that.
I played with it on and off.
Mhm.
I disregarded it for a while. I kind of put myself in this camp that maybe my sacral and splenic response is too fast to even pick up on, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So there was that, but also like I've got a new relationship where it's this person's a generator and she's open to having sacral calibration kind of questions and being surprised by her own response. And so she's been doing it back. And I'm like, this is
Mm.
what I need. I was like, I built my own sacral calibration scripts in ChatGPT where I'd be like, I want to make a decision about this, but I need to bury
Mhm.
it inside 20 questions because if I know the question's coming, my head will get involved, right? But
Right.
it doesn't actually work because I still know that the question's in there. So
Yeah.
I know it's coming. And so there is something very, very real about it. I don't make every decision around that. Eleanor talks about the spiritual world being missed in classic human design. And so the idea that something that's spiritual values based takes a week to, so like even someone with a
Mhm.
speedy sacral like
Right.
me, I don't want to make everything a sacral decision. I want to use it to inform in the moment, but I still, if it's a big decision, sit on it a week because I want to talk about sharks actually. Quad left, the archetype for quad left is the shark, and she's talked about, at least with spiritually with this energy work. I might be like, oh, that's a hell yes, but a week later, I'd be like, oh, now I'm stuck. I'm in the gig now, right? And with the 4629, it seems to be about like entering things correctly, and if you don't, it could be a 30-year incorrect thing. Um, Sharks generally, like when they bite a human, they're not generally attacking humans. They think it's maybe a seal. They take a chomp at the leg and then go, ugh, not a seal, and move on. But meanwhile, the person bleeds out and dies, right? Like there's not really a lot of people that truly just get devoured by a shark, I think, in general.
Mhm.
Um, by the way, I know this statistic. You're more likely to be killed by a coconut from a palm tree. So I find myself when I'm doing my tree yoga outside every day, I'm always looking to see if there's any coconuts above because it'd be ironic if the shark gets killed by a falling coconut in Florida.
I believe that statistic, and also you should watch out for the palm fronds themselves, like the leaf things. Like I don't know if that would kill you, but I've seen some people get knocked the fuck out with one of those falling. They're heavy and they hurt. And one's fallen like right in front of me before, and I'm like, missed that by like a second. But yeah, they'll take you out.
I saw one fall the other day and it was like 10
They're
feet.
heavy. They're
It's
heavy.
big and fall from 50 feet.
Yeah, yeah. They just fall. It's like falling leaves, but like for palm trees, that's a whole different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sharks, yeah. Uh, Um, so do you see yourself that way? Like a
The shark theme has been consistent for a long time. I would say it was early on in my design days, but I found a website that described the various variable arrows. And the
mm,
quad left is the shark, the quad right is the alien life form, and then there's various ones in between.
fun. What a fun thing.
Have you not come across that? Because
No,
maybe
I
later
want.
I'll send it to you. It's
If you
probably
can find it, I want it. Yeah.
it's probably like 9 years old. as a
That's
resource.
a cute way to break that down. No, I've never come across that.
Yeah, and it's a good way. I got into the whole variable thing really early, and I'm like way too early because I've still not learned design properly. Right, I'm still just
That's interesting that you got into variables like right away. That's, usually like a later thing.
yeah, but
But
I
it,
got into it through the animal archetype, which I think
mhm.
simplified it.
Yeah.
But that
That-
shark, the quad left, I've always, well, I've been afraid to death of sharks ever since seeing Jaws when I was 8 by myself in my parents' bedroom. By the way, I need to share this story here because I realize there's a lot of people out there with shark trauma, and they need to know this little piece of information because I know way too much about the movie Jaws. But you know the opening scene in the first movie where the woman's like they're making out on the beach and the guys they're
I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen it, like not all the way. No. I've seen bits and pieces, but I'm not gonna remember a scene.
okay. Well,
But
if when you see it,
okay.
or anyone that might be tuning into this
I'm sure other
movie,
people have seen it.
yeah, the movie starts with this couple and they're like making out on the beach, but they're both totally drunk. And like she strips all her clothes off and goes to swim out in the water, and he starts to follow her, and then he passes out because he's drunk. So she's swimming in the water and swimming away, and all of a sudden she feels a tug on her leg, and then the whole movie starts where it's like she's just like freaking out,
Uh-huh.
sharks taking her from underneath, and it became like the poster and everything. You'd always see the poster of like
Yeah, I remember the image.
that woman in that scene was actually having a full-on panic attack because scuba divers were pulling her legs, and I don't know if they didn't tell her that that was how it's going to happen, but she actually thought she was going to drown. So that was recorded on film of someone having a legit thinking they were going to die. It wasn't acting. And I now know that when I saw that at 8 by myself in my parents'
Yeah.
bedroom,
Oh,
my body intuitively saw the terror. It wasn't acting, it was fucked up.
wow.
So once I cleared that, I actually didn't have a fear of sharks anymore either.
Holy shit, that's kind of crazy.
Isn't that
Yeah.
nuts? So I've always wondered about like, did Steven Spielberg know that that happened and left the thing in the film? Because he's always talking about he's generally critical of other people's films if it's lacks some certain types of integrity. But I feel like a lot of people may have some really messed up trauma over a
Holy
scene.
wow.
So
That's such an interesting thing to think about, especially as like an undefined solar plexus person. Because I know that when I watch movies, sometimes I feel like stuff that I don't even need to be feeling in that moment. Like there's just no reason for it. Like, but it's like it's to your point. It almost feels like it's beyond the acting. It almost feels like I'm tapping into something else, like that this person's going through or something. I'm like, whoa, what was that kind of feeling? But that's an interesting thing to think about. Like how many times that's how do you know that fact that the girl was having a real panic attack? That's crazy. What an interesting tidbit of info that I've never heard.
I don't remember, but I am a sphinx, and I do know that
Yeah.
I'm here to be intuitive about the past to bring
Mhm.
information forward. And like half the stuff I've been talking about have been me bumbling into content that others seem to miss, and yet I'm like my friend Nathan kind of described me as the Kool-Aid man. I just kind of crash the door like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And I just kind of find stuff, and then I'm like, "Hey, you should check this out," and then I disappear. That's
That's kind of interesting. I feel like I have that a little bit too. Being, I don't know if a vessel of love has that same kind of trait about it, but since we're both G center CrossFiz, I just wonder if there's like a directional aspect there. I don't think I have any direction. I always joke. I'm like, I have all the non-direction gates in the G center, so I have no idea where the fuck I'm going. I got all the love, no direction. But yeah, but I know that I can have influence on people's direction. I've seen that play in my life for sure, in relationships and friendships and stuff like that. And sometimes it is what you just said, like something that I'm so obviously like you've never heard of that. That's so weird. Here, check out this thing, and it's like, oh, um,
That's why a podcast like this I think is interesting, is that we can actually
hmm
take up these
hmm
ideas, right?
for
I'm
sure.
I'm actually looking at your body graph, and just back to that conversation before about um, the right side and the left side.
Hmm
Basically, most designs I see like they're like a reflector on one side and a generator on
hmm
the other, or whatever. You have definition on both sides. One was your ajna and throat. The other was your heart and spleen.
Lean.
And
Yeah.
yet your G center only comes together totally. and yet you're still a split definition too. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that's about, but I do recognize these days that I bridge a lot of people's splits. And you actually said that
Yeah.
when we met the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do. Like, you know, I basically wire people for sound energetically. So uh,
Yeah. That is interesting that my G, what you just pointed out, I don't think I ever really occurred to me that my G center only comes together with both, right? Yeah, that's what you're saying. Uh-huh.
which
Right.
is identity and direction, and yet you're split off still from your throat and your ajna. So
Right.
like,
Right.
what is that like? Well, so I'm basically saying like, what's that like for you? But at the same time, I'm also saying, you know, in the last 3 days, I I think I'm comfortable being like I'm a single definition nanny gen,
Mm-hmm.
both sides. And in fact, in Eleanor's world, where there's four worlds,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely the only person there that is consistently all four lit up. Like, you know, when you start entering these other body energy maps,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about me that I have. I mean, I think I don't know. I don't know about you, but I think I was drawn to design around uniqueness, and it might be the gate one searching for that. Like maybe that's what it was. Just like what's wrong with me? Why am I? Why don't I? Why does nothing work? Why don't I stand out? Or you know, I don't know where that comes from, but now that I'm leaning into it and being, it's like a permission slip to be me for the first time. And this is
Mm-hmm.
4 years, 4.5 years into my experiment. And it's
Yeah.
just this week. It's the first time where I'm like, huh, how about that? So,
That's cool.
mhm.
That's cool to hear. I think too, you've taken a lot of time for yourself. I feel like that's such a big part of it. Like for me, it was so much of when I first found design was me realizing like how much I wasn't paying attention to myself. I don't know how else to say it. Um, I just was paying, and maybe it's projector shit, but my attention was everywhere else, like everywhere else. My partner and my mom, I'm like just everywhere, everywhere, and like very little time by myself for myself, like paying attention to myself or like my body or like anything like that. And so, and I mean, I also left a long relationship too, right before finding design. And I feel like it was like I intuitively kind of knew that it was just like it felt done, but I didn't really know how to articulate that. Um, so things played out like they did, but I knew in my body that it felt finished. Whatever this was done, and it wasn't that wasn't something I ever saw coming. Like I thought we were going to be together till the end of time. It was very good. Everything was good. It was what we would call good or whatever. And it was a loving relationship. And then I just felt like it was done. And it was just I have different words and sentiments about it now, but at the time I didn't know like that didn't seem like an option. You know what I mean? Like that's not a choice. And there was, I don't know, I would say 3 years of like really, really tough, like whatever separation of like myself and this other person and this life. But I mean, this was at least 5 years ago, and it's still a little bit in me of this like separation of like who am I and what because I was this thing within this thing for so long, not as long as you, but still I was in it for a solid 13 years. And it's just what it is. And when I took time for myself though, after, it was when I started to really see myself
Mhm.
and I don't know, remember who I was. I don't know what the right words are, but I relate to the sentiment of just now feeling like this permission slip is like cool, like go be that. Like maybe not entirely how you described it, but I can relate. And I'm just glad you got there, because even though it's kind of like a weird path sometimes to get there, I don't know that how many people get there. I think a lot of people just choose the um this is comfortable route.
The complacency path.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I got introduced to human design within 3 weeks of my Chiron return. Like,
Whoa.
like that close. And that weekend, I was introduced to plant medicine, human design,
Wow.
metaphysical anatomy, all of it. Like I went there not with any interest in that, and I didn't even go there for me. I went there because I was worried about my daughter, and I wanted to see if psychedelics were safe for her. So like that,
Mm.
But I now realize my soul took me there, and that's what I needed. And ultimately, design is kind of what dissolved my family relationship. Like I can't blame it, but it certainly led to me changing, evolving, um, observing, tweaking, and
Mhm.
it just the other people in my life fell away. I was talking to Kaylee Ma the other day, and she was. I think it's okay to share this because she was talking to Brandy Jordan at one point, and they had a conversation about like, you know, isn't it hard when you realize that some people in your family just aren't part of your fractal?
Mm.
Woof, yeah, I know how that feels. Um, in my mind, what gave me peace instead was realizing that we all signed up as souls and for an experience, and recognizing that the soul is more important than the family labeling system, which is
Yeah.
also very, very difficult to navigate. But
Yeah. It's so true. Family of origin stuff and family stuff is just so other level in terms of the ways that we have to like consider how that. Um, I've never heard it put like that though. Isn't it interesting when you have to learn that your family isn't part of your fractal?
or is
It's
it hard?
interesting,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. I mean, and I've heard this story a lot too with people experimenting with human design that it could be like a lonely road sometimes. Um, I know I wouldn't say lost relationships, but I would say relationships changed for me with a lot of the friendships that I had pre-design and how they are maintained now. I mostly still, I would say that they're still my friends but the dynamic is different
Mhm.
than it was before. And I mean, I guess that's mostly because of me and like me deciding to be more me. I don't know, but it definitely I can feel the difference, and I can see how I performed before versus how I just be now.
Mhm.
For sure, like I can see that so clearly when I'm with people that I've known for 20 years or something like that. It's like, wow, the past version of me would have been so inclined to just do that thing because that was the nice thing to do for my friend or whatever. Whereas this version of me might get up and leave, and that's not always okay. Okay. My 57 literally wants to get up and leave sometimes. That's what my 1057 feels like. Like, okay, we're done. I'm good. I gotta go. And sometimes it does feel really fucking urgent like that too for me. Like for nobody else. And I realize that it's nobody else's urgency, but sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm like done. And maybe it's the ego, my ego is all connected there too. So it's my only motor. When that girl turns on, I feel like she's just doing whatever she wants at that point. So yeah, and that's not always like, I don't know, people don't like that. People don't like that. I can remember being at a birthday dinner not that long ago, and the conversation started. It just was, they were talking about something I didn't want to hear. I just didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. So I was like, I'm gonna be right back. And I just got up really quick and walked away. I didn't know where I was going. I mean, we're at a restaurant. I was just gonna go take a fucking walk. I'll take a lap. I don't know, but I just didn't want to hear what they were talking about. I know who I am, and I knew that if I heard that, it was gonna fucking kill my fucking mood for the rest of the day, dinner, and I didn't want that. And I was having a good time, and when I came back, there was a couple people that were like, "Are you good? Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm good. I'm fine." I just, I think I said something like, "Oh, I went and took a phone call or something so that it wouldn't be as weird," but
Mhm.
I was fine, but I could tell that people thought it was weird that like I just got up and left. Like there had to be a reason or something, but there wasn't. I just didn't want to. That wasn't for me in that moment, kind of vibe. But that's not always like socially like okay, yay. Like it could have been the conversation later could have been like, oh, Monique was being weird that night. I don't know, but like you know, now I'm at a point where like I don't really care. But I remember at the beginning it was a little weird, that like teetering dance of like, these people know me just this way. And if I am now this way, are they still gonna like want me? I don't know. I don't know. So we experiment and we find out. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I This last Christmas, I have a big family back home, and we'd have like 18 to 20 people for
Me
Christmas,
too. I have a big family too.
just table after table. And my digestion's my anyways, I'm calm touch, and
Mhm.
I used to think I was allergic to
Wow.
dairy. I was, all these things, and then I realized no, I'm don't like shitty conversation when I'm eating food. I need to either eat by
Mm.
myself or, and so I had correlated the dairy thing to the fact that like when people are unhappy, they generally eat ice cream, especially in my household. And so every time I ate ice cream within that family unit, it would be like razor blades going down my throat.
Wow.
But what I realized later is I could eat a tub of ice cream by myself. And so this last Christmas when we had the family dinner, I sat down and immediately felt uncomfortable around all these people because they're all arguing with each other, and there's a couple of people in my family that are just not pleasant, and generally always end up sitting near me, probably because I'm the peacekeeper. Um, and I just said like I'm gonna go sit in the next room, and I didn't get flack for that, but it was because I was already the black sheep of the family.
Mhm.
So it was just like, oh, idiots leaving like that's pretty much how my father would talk to me.
Mhm.
He's not socializing with people, but I was able to put down my whole dinner, wait 5 minutes, and then go back, and I felt fine, and I could eat a whole dinner. So I
Mm.
had no idea years ago that I was just suffering all the time. Like every, because people come to me with problems. I'm also a very quick problem solver. I have lots of, I'm fast.
You're a 3.5 mg. I know you don't like do profile stuff that much, but to me, you're a 3.5 mg. That is a problem solver if I ever met one, and a fast one.
yeah,
I love my 5 lines. They be solving all my problems.
yeah.
You guys don't even know it. You you don't even realize you're doing it. Um, I remember my 5-1 friend the first time I gave her a reading, and I kind of described that part to her. She's like, "But I like solving problems." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I know. I know you do, 5-1. Just make sure you're solving the ones you want to be solving." I don't fucking know what to tell you, especially with a transpersonal profile. I feel like in my what I've witnessed is those people really enjoy being all up in it with the other, like way more than I do. Say, for example, like there's only a select amount of others for me, but like the 5-1, their net is big. It's like I've got all the others here doing like they've got their hands in a lot of pots. But I guess that's, I don't know, different left
I can
angle
definitely relate
thing.
to the 3-5 profile for sure.
But 3-5, I see that in you.
Right? It's and the projection and but I was solving everyone's problems, and
Yeah,
everyone was relying on me and didn't
yeah.
learn how to do things themselves. And that's what
Also,
my family's going through right now is they're learning how to do everything, and they're angry at me about it, but they're actually growing as people right now. So,
right,
but
right.
the resentment both ways right now is heavy. So,
Yeah, yeah. Amy always says that like the people that benefited the most from you being the way you were before are the ones that generally give us the most resistance when we, decide to stop performing in some of those ways that made it better for them, but at our own like self-sacrifice,
mhm.
um, which we've decided to not do all the time anymore, or most of the time, at the expense of ourselves. I don't know. We're also very taught that for family, you do whatever you have to do.
Mhm.
I know I was like, I mean, I'm from a Hispanic family. You do whatever it is that you have to do for your parents as a Hispanic child. That's just it. Um, and then you are expected to be do no matter what type of parent if you have kids, right? So it's like, yeah, but at the expense of your own self, like every time, that doesn't seem right either.
No,
Um,
and we're entering a time where we're entering a very interesting time. It's
hmm.
about personal sovereignty and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So, I I feel like I'm uniquely positioned right now for this time, and I don't know why, but it's all been lining up. From that
Yeah.
shamanic weekend right around that Chiron return to just everything since. Um, that's interesting. I'm actually like drawn back into design and energy maps this week. I pretty much had tapped out of most of it for about 6 months.
Right.
I think I was just overwhelmed and frustrated, but yeah, there's some sort of, well, I for a while there I was saying like I kind of wish I had left the genie in the bottle, like because everything was
Hmm.
falling away, but
Hmm.
it's kind of falling into place.
Yeah. No, I relate to that too. We joke about that as non-sacrals all the time. It's like, dude, sometimes I wish I didn't know what I know now, because I was like, I was, quote unquote, keeping up just fine before. Whereas now it's like, yeah, my body just, it doesn't do that now that I've adjusted myself to like being a slower paced person
Mhm.
than trying to stay in the race with the MGs. And just realizing that's a losing race for me. And I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. The right MGs will find me if I don't fucking try and run the race with them. That's what I learned. If I'm out there trying to be a sacral, they don't see me like actual me and the value that I bring,
Mm.
But it took me a while to like reframe that for myself. And I still struggle plenty of days with that.
Yeah.
Um, that sentiment. But it's I think it's an integration circuitry that makes us feel kind of okay, because I relate to what you're saying. Like I feel like we're in a very interesting time. I feel like shit is crazy bananas and all kinds of what's up is down and down is up type of thing. Like, and I know that I'm gonna be okay. I don't know how else to say it. And I hope that all the people I love will be okay too. I trust and believe that. But like I just feel set up for it in a way. So I relate to what you're saying, and I wonder if that's our integration circuitry. Like we're gonna live. I don't know, I don't know, but I'm trying to live here, because I was talking to somebody about the state of the world, and they were a self-projected projector friend,
Mm.
and they were really spiraling and spinning into some shit. And they're a person who I would consider self-aware and evolved. They know about 2027 or whatever, I don't know, things, and they know about science. And but they were really, there was this deep fear that was I could like sense. And I'm like, I wonder if that like 1057 be holding me down, just like, you know what to do, self. um you just do yourself. And keep on keeping on, whereas you have that in spades too. um
Yeah.
and you're, when you said earlier that you the one channel that stays the same is the 3457 in your, in both, right? You have it
Yeah.
conscious and unconscious, yeah.
Between the two. Yeah.
Which is like the fastest channel. Isn't that like a really super fast channel that can like save your life in front of a car? Isn't that what it says? And I'm pretty sure that's what it says in the definitive book. That's the example it gives. Like if you're crossing the street and a 3457 is near you, they're gonna like save your life from the car that's about to like run us all over. So there's this like primal, like I feel like just fast moving instinct with this channel too. And like you're gonna live. I don't know, the 3457s, you're gonna live. I'm pretty certain of it.
Yeah. Well, I've had experiences where I've done crazy things, that more teenager things, and I'm like
Hmm.
amazing that I'm alive. But
Right.
nowadays I haven't really thought about it in a long time. But I used to get in trouble all the time when I'd walk with my family because I would go across the street.
Mm.
They were kind of like, "Ooh, doo, doo, doo," and they'd follow me blindly, and then
And then they'd almost die.
right. And I was fine, and I assumed they were fine because I assumed they were following with me, but they weren't.
Right.
I knew I was safe. It wasn't like I didn't care. I, you know,
Yeah.
I thought they were right behind me.
This is an interesting thing you're bringing up, I feel like, because that's the thing, is like our urgency and our timing is our own only, right? So it's like, and if the person is like right there with us, maybe, but like you just said, an example is like, seconds later, it's almost like a self sustained absorbed timing thing when you're paying attention to it. And that can feel isolating too, I think in a world where we you know, crave connection and things like this. Because I feel that too. There's this like I get that with my kid a lot because like it's almost like I'm like crossing the street. Let's just go with that example. Like it's almost like I know exactly where the cars are and how to like whatever, but she doesn't. I can see that she doesn't have the same awareness. And so it's like more like, okay, step in the exact same steps that I stepped in, please. So that you don't like, you know, or yeah, just instinct things that she just doesn't have. Like we're at the beach and the sand is hot. So you dig your feet in, dig them in. That's what you do. I don't know. Nobody ever fucking taught me that. I just know that. But she didn't know that. I had to tell her that. It's like these weird instinct things, you know, I think that we just have like with this integration, especially with maybe with any defined split, but with integration circuitry, I see it a lot.
You just reminded me of, I forgot all about this. This is about 8 months ago, but you know, those little snack packs where it'd be like 8 pieces of pepperoni,
Yeah. Like a
bits of
Lunchables.
cheese, right? Like just little snacks to go.
Yeah.
There was one because I get them all the time because I don't like to cook. So to me,
Yeah.
that's a
They're
meal.
adult Lunchables. I love those. Me too.
So there was one time where opened the package, took one round of it, and then was just blindly like blah 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 blah. And there was one time where I went to put the meat in my mouth, and it never even touched my lips. Like I know it stopped half an inch short, and then I didn't see it. I was like doing this, and I
Mhm.
looked at my face, and the thing was green. It was like a nasty piece of green,
Wow.
and my body would not let me put it
Ew.
in my mouth. And I did not see it. And it was buried under other meat that was
Wow.
slightly infected anyways, but it not
I was gonna say you might have had a little bit anyway, but you're probably fine because here you are.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, yes, stuff like that will happen to me too. Like I'll open up thing of food and it's not expired. There's nothing wrong with it. But then I'll go to like use it and I'll be like, this fucking looks weird, smells weird, something's weird. I don't know. Um, yeah, it's weird. It's instincts, and I do think that it's like just primal, and in your case, probably even more primal with that with the sacral connection there too. Like splenic sacral is like, I mean, that's a fast moving person if they're in their flow, right? I feel like, but I also appreciate what you said earlier too about this like um adding the spirituality into it. Like some things you don't like, I don't know. I like you just pointed out, I'm a split definition person no matter which way you slice it. So I do take time sometimes, even though I'm splenic. You know, there are times where I'm not sure. I
Mhm.
need to like sleep on it or I need to like wait a couple days and that's okay too. You know, I don't really subscribe to the like um you know, you have to like whatever right now if you have one of these authorities. But it is kind of cool when you can move that way because like today for example we moved that way because you're a sacral and I'm a splenic and I was like boom here's a voice note and you're like boom here's an idea and I'm like boom let's do it and you're like cool you game and I'm like yeah let's go
Yeah.
and we're both here and there was no fear there was no whatever we're both like yeah let's do it. I feel like that's all very you know splenic sacral type of timing.
That values exercise that we did the other day, I
Mhm.
stumbled across that through an NLP course 2 years ago.
Mm,
It was informing. And then when I met Eleanor, she really, really doubled down on the whole values thing. And
mm,
those values are for those times when you're getting that hit, but you're not sure. Those values are where you want to check in. That's the pillars of the house.
mm.
Because you
I
could be
like.
like, I love to have some ice cream right now, or that kind of response or whatever.
Mhm.
But maybe ice cream's not a good example, but like, does it align with your values? Because that's the stuff you have to live with.
That's really cool. That's good context for me to use that. I just looked at the time. We got to wrap. But I that's good context for that value exercise. That's a good exercise. More people should know about that.
Yeah, well, and I'd encourage you to do it again in a week and just see if you get the same results.
Yeah,
You
I
may
might
they
do it
may
again.
refine a bit, right? And then check in with that. So,
Yeah.
all
Well,
right, well, I'm gonna do it was lovely
this
chatting.
has been super fun. I
Yeah.
think we should do it again.
Okay. Good. Let's do that. I'm gonna hit the little button, make it look all professional, and end the stream. Just hang out here for a sec, okay?
Yeah.